Look, ladies and gentlemen, there's a reason why some people are so incredibly monumentally successful, and others, no matter how hard they try, just can't seem to get anywhere. Now, the difference between these two characters isn't in their drive, it's not in their goals. The difference is in their ability to execute every single day without the excuses. Because the person who can execute, he's engineered a system around their life that basically makes it inevitable for them to succeed. And now in today's video, I'm going to show you exactly how to build that personal system for yourself so that you become so productive it feels like you found the cheat code for a video game. Now, without further ado, let's get straight into the video. So first things first, I want you to find a purpose, right? Find a reason. Because if you don't have a purpose, there's nothing in the world that's going to convince you to do a task, right? Because you need to have a reason why you're doing it. First things first, I want you to find a place of clarity, right? You don't want any bias, you don't want anyone influencing you. Now, that could be whatever it is for you. For me, it will be finding a place of silence, going on walks, whatever it works for you. And I want you to ask yourself these questions. What is it that you actually want to achieve? What is it that you really want? Who is it that you want to help? And who is it that you look up to? Now, the reason we ask this is because people are a lot more willing to do a lot more work for other people and achieve a lot more so that they can help other people than they are to help themselves. So this is a really strong motivator. And if you're really struggling, I want you to find out who is it that you look up to, right? Is there someone in your life that may have characteristics, traits, or has even achieved something that you want to achieve? There's nothing wrong with trying to replicate that. As long as you're not trying to become that person, I don't see a problem with that. Now, if we look at if we look at an example of some successful people, of some of these people that you may know, if we take Imam Ghazi, for example. His purpose initially was to provide for his mum. The problem with people and trying to create a purpose is that they think it's going to be long term. They think it's going to be something they have to stick for their whole life, and they kind of overcomplicate that. I don't want you to do that, because if we take even Iman as an example, his purpose right now isn't to provide for his mum, right? He's already done that. That was his initial purpose. So what I'm trying to say is your purpose can change. So Iman, again, poor household, abusive stepfather, that led him to want to provide for his mum. Alex Hormozi, he felt like a loser when he was 20 years old, didn't make much money, so he wanted to build something of value, and he didn't want to rely on anyone else. And you can see exactly that with all the companies he's built, with the books he's written. He's basically made himself super independent. And then Hamza, who most of you know, teaches to build masculinity to young men. One thing I want to point out is that in these three characters, you can see their identity in the purpose behind them, right? For example, Hamza, you can tell in his voice, you can tell in his demeanor, in his appearance, the content he shows, the things he wears, right? You can see by his gown. It gives off a character, it builds an identity that works towards their purpose, right? And same with with Alex Hormozi, you can see by the companies he's built, the books he's written, the things he's developed, the fact that he's very well-rounded goes back to the fact that he doesn't want to rely on anyone else. He works out, he's built various different companies in various different industries. And then same with Imam Ghazi, his purpose was to provide for his mum, and which is something very honorary, and he shows that in his character as his identity. And you can see in his character, in the way he acts, in his appearance, he teaches other people how to build honor, right? How to be an honorary man, and how to build true wealth. Once you've built your purpose, we want to then move on to designing your new identity that will help you achieve that goal. So first thing I want you to do is I want you to define your end vision. Who is it that you want to become? You can't build an identity around uncertainty. If you don't know what your identity needs to look like, how the hell are you going to achieve any of your goals? Right, so first I want you to imagine just the highest version of yourself. What characteristics, what qualities do they need, right? I want you to write that down so we can make it a bit visual. And I want you to write that down. And if you don't know what qualities you need, I've made this checklist that you can go through one by one and literally tick off if that quality or characteristic fits the identity that you're trying to build. And if you're really struggling, I've also added a customizable ChatGPT prompt you can go ahead and use for yourself, which will kind of help you understand what characteristics you need for your identity. Once we understand what we're trying to build, let's audit our current identity, because you can't transform what you don't see, right? So if I asked you right now to tell me why your current identity isn't already your highest version, you wouldn't be able to tell me. That's because things only become clear when you start to look deeper into them. Ask yourself, what habits, thoughts, and behaviors belong to the old me, the version that keeps you average? What beliefs are limiting me, right? Is it the fact that you're not disciplined? Is it the fact that you think you're too young? Do you always tell yourself you're going to start later, right? What situations or people make you forget who you want to be? Does your identity require you to find a new friend group, for example? Then I want you to be brutally honest, and I want you to show the changes that you're committing to. Write down 2 columns. These are going to be like our guiding principles, and we're going to properly embed this into our system later on. So I want you to write 2 columns with your old identity and with your new identity, just like above. Write a list for both your old and your new identity. Now the next few things are really important, so I want you to listen closely. The only difference now between your old identity and the new one that you've committed to is proof, right? The only difference is proof, evidence to your own internal system that you're actually your new identity. Now, if you keep trying to build a new identity without changing your inputs, you're going to default to the same baseline. And as a consequence, you're just going to end up reinforcing your old identity every time the structure fails to support the new one. And failure, it gets internalized, not as my system didn't work, but as I must not be that kind of person, right? And I want you to understand, this isn't just a mindset thing. This is physiological, right? It's not just behavioral, it's physical. When you repeat the same habits, even bad ones, for a long enough time, it literally leaves grooves in your brain that tell your nervous system that this is the norm. This is how you've been surviving all this time, and this is safe. So when you try to do something that isn't you and out of the ordinary, your nervous system will literally fight back to get to the norm. So that's why people don't just suddenly switch and start achieving their goals the next day. You may do for a couple of days, but eventually your identity will catch up to you and your nervous system will bring you back to the norm. This is exactly why we need to change our identity. And like I said, to do that, we need to build evidence and proof to our internal system. How we're going to do that, I'm going to explain in the next step. Building our personal system. Now, systems are going to look very different depending on what you're trying to create. If you're trying to create a system around marketing or managing your business, it's going to look completely different to creating a personal system for you specifically. And today I'm going to show you how to design a personal system. This is how we're going to turn our goals into systematic actions in order to be able to achieve them. This takes us from chasing motivation and utilizing willpower to actually being able to engineer our transformation using systems. Let's take brushing your teeth, for example. You don't need willpower to brush your teeth, right? You just do it because it's part of your routine. It's part of your system, right? You don't need any effort to do it because it's ingrained, is in you as part of your identity. Now, when it comes to building a personal system, it's generally broken down into a two-step process. Our action manager and our identity progress tracker. Our action manager is our routine. This is what we have to do. This is the task that we need to get done. And for an action manager, you need 2 things, right? You're going to need a place where you can store all of your task notes data in a digestible way. We'll call this our database. And you're also going to need a place to visualize that data, so you can only see the task that you have to do for today, tomorrow, next week, whatever, right? You don't want to see all of your data in one place. And then we'll call this a dashboard. If we move on to our progress tracker, this is going to help us visualize if we're actually seeing progress or not. It's a way of capturing our growth and learnings, which is getting us closer to our new identity and then creating a way to be able to track that progress. Essentially what it's doing is, this is where we're going to save all the new things that we've learned and be able to track our progress and see if we're going in the right direction. So you need to understand 2 things with a progress tracker. You can't know that you're improving something if you don't have the data to back it up. And without data, you're just another person with an opinion. Because living on estimates is what amateurs do. And we're not amateurs. We want to be professionals. Step number 2 is, if you don't have a place to store what you've learned, you're gonna just end up forgetting it, right? So don't try and memorize everything, because the brain is meant for creating new ideas, not just storing them. And when it comes to actually designing our personal system, I've tried many softwares, and by far Notion has worked the best in terms of the things that you can do with it, the ease of use, everything like that. So by all means, use something else if you find something better, but Notion is number one in my opinion. I'm going to show you a quick example of the system, of my personal system, and kind of how it links to what I've just said. So when it comes to our Action Manager, again, that's where we have our routine and tasks. It's broken down into the dashboard and the database. In the database, this is where we're going to store all of our data. So for example, if we look into the task database, day in, day out, I'm just going to add any tasks as they come onto this list. And then we're going to be able to visualize all of those data, all of that data in the dashboard. So if I go into Action Zone, we can visualize that in a way. So for example, I can now see all the tasks that I need to get done for today. I can see it for tomorrow. I can see it for an upcoming week. Things that we're waiting on, and even a not to-do list. This is crucially important, because when it comes to getting things done, it's as important, if not more, to remind yourself of the things you need to not do, because they're the things that are holding you back. They're the hurdles that are going to be slowing you down. So I've even added a not to-do list in here. You can also add various visuals to make this easier. A 30-day task database. We've added a calendar below, so we can see all of our tasks in a calendar. And that's kind of our Action Zone. This is basically where all the source is. Right? This is where we can see everything, manage everything, and know exactly what we need to do for the day without having to hesitate, so we can just execute straight away. And then if I show you another example with the goals database, if we want to build a new identity, there's going to be a lot of characteristics that we might want to develop, right? We can create a database. I've named it goals database, where we can add in the characteristics that we want to improve. For example, become a better communicator, right? And so we can create a table like this with a bunch of information. For example, the status is that it's in progress. The priority level is the first thing I need to do. The category is that it's personal to me, and then the challenge is that it's not the challenge of it is that not rewatching yourself back and poor vocabulary. Those are the challenges that are causing me to not become better. And then we're able to actually see that. And then we can create something where in our dashboard, we're able to actually, I mean, you can't see it now, but in our dashboard, we can filter for things. So we can see just the things that we want to see. So if we want, we can filter by priority level, by category. So if we only want to see health stuff, we can then create a filter with category and then just put it as health. So now we only see things as health. So that's the power of the dashboard. We can visualize things, see things that we need. So we kind of eliminate the distractions of all the different other things that are going on in our life. So we only see the things that we need to do in that moment. That's kind of how you should design your Action Manager. And look, your system is going to look different based on your goals, what exactly you need tracking. But the fundamentals is that you need to be able to have a task database to store all of the tasks that you need, with these categories of the tasks that you need to do, the priority, whether it's done, whether you're waiting for something to be able to get it done, the due date, and any notes that might help you. Now, the reason we need a due date on top of a due date is because there's no point just having a due date, because usually, most times, if you try to do things on their due date, then it's often too late, because if you don't get it done then it's going to be too late, because it's going to be past the due date. So you want to have a date that you can actually do the task as well. Now we can move on to a crucial part of building our personal system, which is building a routine, building a calendar. And since we're using Notion, the Notion calendar just makes the most sense. So if we look into my calendar, and I know I'm not being a best example of actually following my calendar, but I really needed to get this video out, so we'll make an exception for this one. If you've got a routine written down, then you understand when you have to do things. So you can make time for when you need to do the tasks that you set yourself in your action manager. Our calendar is super important, right? This is what truly consolidates our system, right? When you build a calendar and you know what you're going to have to do, your mind goes on autopilot, right? You just do the task because you know that's what you're going to have to do. You're not going to have decision fatigue. You're not even going to waste time thinking about what you're going to have to do because it's all set and done. Think of it like it's written in stone. Once it's in your routine, you have to go through it and action it. And with this, you've built yourself a personal system that, if followed through correctly, will make you so productive. It will feel like you found the cheat code for a video game. Now, if we go back to thinking about our identity progress tracker, this is where we're going to store our learnings. So in my database, where we would see that is everything else below the dashboard and the database, right? This is where I store all of my information for all the different categories that I'm working on or that I want to improve. Let's just say you want to make new meals, new meal recipes to benefit your health and just dial in for the gym, right? You can then have a place to be able to store that information. So I don't actually know if I've saved any meals in here, but so if I go into like here, for example, which I've made for this video, you have a place to store all of the information, right? And if I design this in a way where it's a table, then I can then create a dashboard to be able to just see the things that I need. And you see the benefit of this is that you have all of your information easily accessible to you all in one place. So you don't have multiple sheets, multiple books for different things, which is a huge time saver and just eliminates the need for distraction, right? Which again which goes towards building our system, our productive system, right? Now, as part of the final step, we want to be able to automate and delegate our low value tasks. We want to be able to remove the final pit holes that are preventing us on focusing on what's truly important. Now for this, all we have to do is look through our Notion database, find out what tasks are coming up the most and are repetitive, and then we want to then utilize ChatGPT to support us and then use some sort of workflow automation to then be able to automate this process and then eventually move on to high value tasks, okay? Because this is our times, this is the most important thing. This is what's going to help us get things done. What's even better is to have someone that has the knowledge in automation and then hiring that person to build this up for you, because it's going to save you a lot of time. And if you can't automate the process, then you can always delegate it, because what's important to you is focusing on the high value tasks that are actually going to get you a return, and not trying to penny pinch and being too worried about the money, because the return you're going to make is far greater. You just need to have an abundant mindset. And that, my friends, is exactly how you're going to create your personal system. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you've got more questions to ask me, I'll attach my Instagram in the description below. It's nearly 1:30 as I'm recording this. I'm extremely tired and I'm gonna get some sleep. So good night.